Hello, I'm John Rossi, a touring drummer with a love of all things animal. When I'm on the road, I visit as many zoos, aquariums... Hey, wait a minute. What's going on? Hey, what's going on there? Hello? Hello? Hello?
We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you Rossifari Zoo news. News you can use from the world of zoos and conservation. Every week, we bring you breaking news and analysis from around the globe, featuring the animals you love and the people who care for them. And here's your anchorman, John Rossi.
Hi, hello, how's it going? Welcome back to Rossifari Zoo News, your look at everything going on in the world of zoos, aquariums, and conservation. I am excited to announce that the break that I was going to start a couple weeks ago until I got called away for my gig emergency has now officially started. Y'all, I am taking a break from gigging, and I know, I've said it before, but this time I am really doing the thing. And I do plan on doing all kinds of other work and other things. I got plans, y'all. But also, I'm currently treating it as an actual break. For instance, today I played video games, built a Lego TIE fighter, and played with puppies. That was my day, and I hope that yours had at least a little bit of the amount of joy that mine had. Good times, enjoying the break. But really, the biggest piece of news in my life is coming on Friday when this episode drops. But it's not this episode, y'all. Okay, so I'm going to nerd out now about my other major passion. And for those of you who don't care, I apologize in advance, and you can skip ahead if you want. But ever since I discovered the Beatles in middle school, I have been in love with Ringo Starr. He's an incredible drummer, incredible character. And honestly, seeing video footage of the Beatles on Sullivan is what made me want to become a professional drummer. I saw that and I never looked back. And honestly, for a lot of years now, I have wanted a Black Oyster Pearl Ludwig drum set, which is the early kit that Ringo played, including on that Sullivan appearance. Black Oyster Pearl is a very particular print that is on the drums. Ludwig is a company that makes drums, and drums are drums. So, all right, now we're all on the same page. And I've looked for these, but I learned a long time ago that it's important to have the right kind of kit, especially when you do things on stage. For instance, most of the stuff that I play is rockabilly, and I'm doing tributes to artists from the 1950s. So it helps to have a drum set that existed in the 1950s. I learned that because many, many years ago, I went out and bought a drum set that was purple sparkle with lime green hardware. And then I got these custom-made cymbals that had these neat little lightning bolt things on them. They look like they literally have lightning bolts on them. They're beautiful cymbals and beautiful drums. And then I started booking gigs where I was on stage, like being a 50s rock musician or a 40s country musician. And people were like, what the heck am I supposed to do with that drum set? So I learned. And as most of you know, I do a $1 Million Quartet, which is a true story of a night that happened in 1956. And so I have this drum set that, even though it's modern drums, everything on it, all of the hardware and everything existed back in 1956. And I've been using that for all of my MDQs and such. Well, a few years ago, I was doing some research, and I discovered that Black Oyster Pearl, while not super popular until 1964 with Ringo, actually came out in 1956. And Buddy Rich, my all-time favorite drummer, happened to play a Black Oyster Pearl kit in 1956. So ever since I discovered that many, many years ago, I have had this dream of getting a Ludwig Black Oyster Pearl drum set, but with some specific hardware things that happened in the 50s and not really much afterwards that Buddy had on his kit back then, and that would work in all of the shows that I do and all of that stuff. However, this is a real hard find. As a matter of fact, in my life, I have found roughly 3 kits that fit the specifications that I'm looking for, all of which were vintage, 2 of which were in terrible shape and still very expensive, and one of which was in great shape and was also expensive, just at a time when I could not really afford it. But y'all, I recently stumbled upon a kit that is my dream kit, at the most affordable price that I have ever seen for this kind of kit. And it is in the best shape of any one of these kits that I have seen. So it is now winging its way towards me, and I could not be more excited. My dream drums are coming home, and it is the coolest thing ever. So I just had to share that with all of you because it's really important to me, and I know you guys like to know what's going on in my life. And right now, that's a really important thing that's going on in my life. Also, I mean, I figure if y'all don't want to hear me nerding out, then you're not going to listen to this podcast at all because that's all that I do. So yeah, that is the cool news. And a quick reminder that you should be subscribed to the podcast and that you can send me zoo news stories by tagging me in them at Rossifari on all the socials or at RossifariPod on TikTok, or emailing them to me, rossifaripod@gmail.com. And of course, make sure you follow along on all the socials and stuff as well. And with all that said, I think it's time. Let's get to it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Ow, that's a funky monkey, tree kangaroo, or a binturong.
It's Zoo News.
Yeah. All right, y'all. So you may remember from last week's episode that I recorded pretty early. So this week is kind of a mixture of things from later last week and all of this week. And that includes the announcement of multiple red panda babies being born. Yay, pandlets. The Oklahoma City Zoo has announced a new male panda. A pandlet. The John Ball Zoo has announced a pair of pandlets, and the Whipsnade Zoo has also announced a pair of pandlets. Now, I'm not great at math, but I'm pretty sure that is 5 new red pandas that we are announcing this week, which is really, really exciting news and really, really makes me want to travel a whole lot more than I have been. And I travel a lot. So congratulations to the Oklahoma City Zoo, the John Ball Zoo, and the Whipsnade Zoo. The New England Aquarium has announced the birth of their first rockhopper penguin chick, Penglet, since 2019. That is a long time, honestly, for an aquarium that is really good at penguin breeding and has a ton of really cool different species. So, yeah, really exciting news. And the chick has to be taken care of very much like a human baby. Needs to be monitored throughout the night and taken care of like regularly. And once it has its waterproof feathers, the chick, which is a girl, will be introduced on exhibit. So that will be happening soon. Rockhopper penguins have those really cool, unique heads, and the chick doesn't. Just looks like a penguin. So I'd check out at NEAQ to see pictures of this gorgeous penguin chick or penglet. The Dallas Zoo has announced the birth of a southern screamer, a screamlet, which is a type of bird, in case you don't know that, to parents Stella and Stanley, which is named Strudel. So that's a very cute name for a very cute bird. Next up in our births are 2 very cool ones from the Tulsa Zoo. First of all, 3 baby spotted turtles have been born at the zoo. They're all about the size of a quarter, and they are very, very small and very, very cute and not actually spotted yet. But you can go to the Tulsa Zoo and spot them in the herp area. I know. And then the other cool story out of the Tulsa Zoo is the birth of a baby giraffe, a giraffelet. And what makes this particularly interesting, other than just the fact that, giraffes being born is a good thing, is the fact that the giraffe was born on exhibit, and there is actually video of the giraffe being born that you can see by going to @Tulsa Zoo. And it's really cool to watch. It is a little graphic. I mean, it's a birth, and those are graphic. But you can go and check that out on their social media pages and actually see a giraffe being born, which is really cool. So congrats to the team at the Tulsa Zoo. Two more quick births to mention this week. The Sacramento Zoo announced that their capybaras have welcomed a new pup or caplet this week, and it is living on exhibit right from the start. So you can go and see a baby cappy at the Sacramento Zoo. And then last but not least, the Maryland Zoo announced a very special birth of a hornlet, which is, of course, what we call ground hornbill babies. A ground hornbill chick was born at the zoo. And this is particularly of note because this is an SSP breeding pair that has been together for the last decade without any success in having a baby. And now they have had the baby. Also, North and Blue, which are the parents, are like really, 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 really beloved animals at the zoo. Blue in particular is just a hornbill with a huge personality. I mean, they all have huge personalities, but yeah. So this is just really, really, really exciting. And I feel really good for the team at the Maryland Zoo who's been waiting for this for a decade. Yay! And of course, after the births come the deaths, and we only have two to talk about this week. First of all, Cleveland Metro Parks Zoo has announced the passing of Jasmine, one of the female Maasai giraffes at the zoo. She had lived at the zoo since she was born there in 2005 and was the first giraffe to be trained for voluntary hoof x-rays at the zoo. And she was the mother of 3 calves and a grandparent of 2, and was one of the oldest female giraffes in the AZA population at 17 and a half years old. Unfortunately, she did have a quick decline, and so they had to say goodbye fairly quickly. One of the craziest things about this is that a lot of people that work at Cleveland Metro Parks Zoo stay there the entire time. And because of that, there are actually staff members there, multiple staff members there, that have cared for this animal from birth to death, which is really incredible. So sending our condolences to the Cleveland Metro Parks Zoo team, but also props for doing such an amazing, amazing job with this animal. And then that brings us to our other passing this week. And this one hurts, y'all. I mean, they all hurt, but this one hurts me personally. The Pittsburgh Zoo has said goodbye quite unexpectedly to 9-year-old red panda Kovu. Unfortunately, Kovu was having trouble walking and wasn't doing very well, just kind of in general, like just seemed to not be himself. And so he was rushed to the hospital where they did a full examination and started trying to do some treatment. And nothing really worked. And when he came out of the anesthesia after the examination, he never really got back to being himself. Kovu was a gorgeous red panda, truly one of the most beautiful that I have ever seen, and was also wildly charismatic, loved guests, loved meeting people. He did wild encounters and stuff like that. And he was just really confident and really friendly all the time. On this podcast, we talk a lot about the fact that, you know, there are a lot of very long-lived pandas in captivity, but the actual median age for pandas in captivity is 10 years old. So even though 9 sounds very young, it's not much below the median life expectancy. And yeah, it's just a really sad loss. Kovu was the reason that I went to the Pittsburgh Zoo as often as I did. There were times that I would be driving through that area and think, I could stop here or go somewhere else. And then I remembered that I would be able to get some really incredible pictures of Kovu. And I stopped. And his father was Rinzin at the Columbus Zoo, who actually passed away a couple years ago now. And you know, it's just so hard. You get to know and love these animals and then they're gone. But yeah, sending love to everyone at the Pittsburgh Zoo. All right, so moving on to some other stories from the week. This first one is a doozy, y'all. It's kind of fun, and yeah, we'll talk. We'll talk. So this story itself, I'm sure you heard of this, is that a zoo in China needed to come out and publicly deny allegations that the sun bear that they have on exhibit is just a man in a sun bear costume. The reason that they had to come out and say this is it's because people are stupid, but because the bear, as sun bears do, often stands on its hind legs, and it has a kind of wrinkly butt and kind of, stands like a human a little bit, because that's what sun bears do, and we've all seen it if we've seen sun bears in zoos. But of course, people started complaining that it was a man in a bear suit, and then it went viral. And so the zoo had to make an official announcement, which I'm sure crafting that was one of the both most amusing and most annoying things that the zoo personnel that did it have ever had to do. So just to confirm, the sun bear that is a sun bear is a sun bear. It is not a person in a sun bear suit. It is, in fact, a sun bear, because that is what sun bears look like. This is funny, and I like actually a lot of other zoos have started confirming that their bears are bears as well, kind of as a joke to poke fun at the situation. I even saw, I think it was the Memphis Zoo posted a thing where they said the Memphis Zoo denies crocodiles are made of rubber, which I know that a lot of people do ask keepers. Oh, is that real? Oh, I didn't think it was real because it's not moving with crocs and alligators and such. So funny joke, also very fair. But I just, this is one of those things that made me laugh, and I enjoyed everybody sharing the humor with me, and a lot of people reached out about this one, and I appreciate that. But this is actually one of those things that gets my craw, because I am seeing more and more people who believe stupid crap online. It started as a problem, and then it became an endemic, and now it's just everywhere. And it's not even big, crazy stuff. It's just I can't tell you the number of times that I have seen people who I respect, people who love and know animals, posting these AI generated images of a baby peacock, which literally, if you've ever seen a baby bird, they all kind of look the same, and they're naked and gross and weird looking. And the AI version is if a cartoonist were to draw what they think a baby peacock would look like if it was, made by Pixar or whatever, already with plumage and a full fan and all that. Or there's a red panda one going around right now, this little baby one that I keep seeing getting posted, that, again, you've seen pictures of baby red pandas. They are adorable, but they don't look like freaking cartoons because they're not, cartoons. And I just see these things getting posted, and more people believing dumber stuff. There are more people every year who read things that convince them that the world is flat. There are more and more people who, who deny climate change because of what they see online. I actually saw somebody who, I respect some of their things. They are in a field where you would not expect this to be a thing. And they posted this thing, and they said, if the ice in your glass melts, the water level doesn't rise. Now think about that globally. And I was so blown away, because ignoring the fact that this is a person who does not believe in global warming, who's in a field where they should definitely believe in global warming, if ice melts in your glass, the water level rises. That's just the first part of the premise was wrong. And so, yeah, it is really funny to me. And I'm sorry, I knew I was going to go on a rant about this, and I promised myself that I wouldn't. And then I laughed at myself and said, of course I will. But it is funny. It is funny that a zoo had to defend itself from not having a person in a bear costume on exhibit. But it's also kind of not funny, because so many people still don't believe their denial and still believe just dumb stuff on the internet. And it actually does like affect our ability to function as a society. And it's problematic, y'all. So have a laugh over it, but also, think about the consequences thereof. Oh, and speaking of idiots, that's a great segue to my next story, which is out of the Columbus Zoo. But don't worry, it's not about anyone who works at the Columbus Zoo. They're not idiots. So on Thursday this last week, there was a teenager who decided to go to the watering hole, which is in their Heart of Africa section, which is where they do the cheetah run, and climb into a tree there. Okay, so climbed into a tree, kind of on exhibit, kind of not at the watering hole, and asked for help. And as they were dealing with that, another person, an actual adult, decided to climb onto the protective hand railing at the exhibit, and then did not hold on properly, and so fell all the way into the watering hole. Luckily landed behind a safety barrier that was not in a shared space with any animals, and EMS was able to respond and get the guest to a hospital where he was conscious and alert. So that's good, I guess. It's good. It's good. I don't want to say anything too mean, but I'm just saying the Darwin Awards exist for a reason. But the interesting thing about this was that when the man fell in, although he was still on the other side of a barrier, Cheetah Adrian, who lives at the zoo and does the cheetah runs there, did actually take notice of the guest when he fell in, but the care team was immediately able to get her attention and make sure she stayed focused on them, and then secure her behind the scenes. So amazing job from the team at the Columbus Zoo, and amazing example of how training works even in emergency situations, and especially with cheetahs, which are wildly neophobic, and suddenly there's a screaming human they don't know down in the watering hole with them, and they were able to handle it, and Adrian did a great job, and that's an awesome story. But man, people are dumb. People are just so dumb. But not all people, because there's another story out of the Columbus Zoo, which is about Dr. Priya. Now, if you've seen Priya on the TV show, you know that she is incredible. Secrets of the Zoo really just shows how amazing this person is. And Zoe actually got to do an internship, a veterinary internship at the Columbus Zoo, and worked with Priya and the rest of the team there, and was just blown away by her intellect and her being a cool human, which I just love so much. And it turns out that Priya has been awarded the prestigious title of Fellow of the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons for her outstanding contributions in the veterinary profession. These fellows work to achieve the promotion of scientific excellence, the enhancement of professional skills and practices of all veterinarians by sharing best practice and lessons learned, and to be a trusted voice that engages with the general public to raise awareness and further understanding of veterinary science and its importance. Priya's awesome, and seeing her get this incredible award is just so cool. So boo to the idiots who were at the Columbus Zoo, but mad props to the absolutely brilliant Dr. Priya at the Columbus Zoo. Shed Aquarium in Chicago has officially announced their Experience Evolution, which is their plan for how they are going to grow over the next few years. And so their evolutions include bringing guests eye to eye with aquatic life in brand new immersive galleries and exhibits, advancing animal care through new labs and innovative habitats, serving more mission moments to more students with new spaces for learning, increasing physical accessibility through modernized ramping and circulation pathways, Offering educational signage to guests in both English and Spanish, giving guests the chance to act on some of the world's most challenging conservation issues during a visit, and creating intentional spaces for communities to gather, commune, and collaborate. I look forward to seeing all of these in practice over the next few years at Shed. And Shed Aquarium is not the only aquarium that is currently poised for a lot of growth. If you listened to our episode from Aquarium of Niagara, then you know that they are moving from a single building that they are in right now to a multi-building campus, and they've announced more about this whole growth, and it sounds amazing. The Aquarium of Niagara has been named the preferred developer for 11 neighboring properties to the aquarium. Basically, there's going to be a phased development that will double their footprint in Niagara Falls, New York, and also enhance the guest experience there. There's going to be rotating exhibits, a robust event arena, food service, as well as new retail space, which I love Aquarium of the Pacific, but they need some new retail space for sure. The gift shop's just kind of there in the middle of the aquarium. There's also going to be a fully inclusive playground and a bunch of other stuff. So basically, this is a big part of the governor of Niagara Falls, Kathy Hochuli, vision to transform Niagara Falls and to draw tourists back to the area, because honestly, it's not been doing very well. So it's really cool that the Aquarium of Niagara is one of the cornerstones that the governor is hoping to use to make the Niagara Falls area more of a tourist destination. It's already such a great little aquarium, and I cannot wait to see it become a great big one. And while we're up in the upstate Western New York region, it's worth mentioning that the Buffalo Zoo has announced a new president and CEO, Lisa Smith. Now, she had been serving as the interim CEO of the zoo for a little while, and before that was the chief zoological officer at the zoo back until September 2022, when she became the interim president and CEO. The zoo did go through a national search firm and reviewed over 100 candidates to figure out who would truly be the best, and it turns out that Lisa was already there, but more importantly, was clearly the best one for the job. So really, really exciting to see a new person in charge there. Lisa is going to be charged with maintaining the zoo's exceptional animal care, implementing the zoo's new strategic and master plans, and of course, raising money to see them through all of the challenges that zoos are facing right now. She has been at the zoo since 2018, and before that served at zoos in Santa Barbara, Cleveland, Atlanta, and Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I'm really excited to see what the new CEO brings to the Buffalo Zoo. The Denver Zoo has announced that one of their orangutans, Irina, is close to giving birth, which is exciting in and of itself. But they also announced that Irina is a first-time mom, and the animal care teams in charge of her noticed that she wasn't doing very well early on and was experiencing symptoms of morning sickness. As such, the keeper team and the veterinary team worked together to find a morning tea that would help alleviate those issues, and they did a great job. And it turns out that Irina still really enjoys her morning tea now. It's become a part of her kind of daily ritual. So I just think that's a really cute little story and nice work by those teams. But also, it's just so cute to think about an orangutan just sipping her tea in the morning and enjoying herself. If only she knew about iced coffee. Oh, and while we're on the subject of the Denver Zoo and also things I love, and by that I mean iced coffee, the Denver Zoo has announced that they have a new exhibit featuring an animal that is new to the zoo, a Matchie's tree kangaroo. They got Pearl, the tree kangaroo, who is now living at the zoo, and that is very, very exciting. Pearl is actually a 1-year-old Matchie's tree kangaroo who moved to the Denver Zoo from the Bronx Zoo, meaning if y'all saw those pictures that I took of that adorable Joey around a year ago now, well, that Joey is now a full-grown adult female tree kangaroo that is living at the Denver Zoo. All right, some quick hits in the zoo world now. The Kansas City Zoo has changed its name to the Kansas City Zoo and Aquarium as they are opening a 650,000-gallon aquarium at the zoo. And they've also created a new logo, which I really like, which shows a shark and kangaroo and penguin and giraffe and elephant. And so now they're the Kansas City Zoo and Aquarium. The Cleveland Metro Parks Zoo has announced that the recently born gorilla at the zoo is a girl. Baby girl gorilla is on exhibit at the zoo, and you can go check it out. The Lincoln Children's Zoo has announced the names of their 2 recently born cheetahs. They are named Sasha and Zori. The Cheyenne Mountain Zoo has announced that they are officially going to be hosting some dog days at the zoo. This is an opportunity for you to bring your furry pets to the zoo to go and explore with you. They started testing this back in May and June, and it has gone really well. These aren't like daily things. There are specific dates, so check out their website to find out more details about that. But don't forget, this is now the second zoo that I know is doing this, the first one being our very good friends Elmwood Park Zoo. So that to me means that this is working, and hopefully other zoos will start to pick up on this and have dog days as well. I got to tell y'all, seeing dogs at the zoo is pretty fantastic. And speaking of dogs at the zoo, though not the pet kind, the Maryland Zoo recently announced that they've been partnered with Guiding Eyes for the Blind, and every month the people at that organization bring their puppies in training to the zoo to help desensitize the dogs to different locations, sights, and smells. That is something that is really important for guide dogs, obviously, and for working dogs of all types. And I think I've mentioned on here before, but lots of new listeners. But Zoe and I have had the opportunity to work with the Penn Vet Working Dog Center and both foster and then we fostered our own dog. And then we also sometimes would foster sit, like a backup foster situation, some other dogs. And we always loved taking those dogs to the zoo. It's always such a cool time to see how the dogs are and how the animals react, and all the staff gets excited, and it's just a really good time. And speaking of the Maryland Zoo, they now have she-fox on exhibit, which is really cool and kind of a species you don't see a ton of. So if that's something that you are interested in, you can certainly go and check those out. And actually, one more from the Maryland Zoo. I mentioned here a couple weeks ago that they had rescued a river otter pup, and they've been doing a really awesome job of updating the public on the pup. And even though the pup lives at the hospital, a lot of fans of the Maryland Zoo have felt very connected to this animal because they've been doing such great pup dates regularly. And they did a recent one this week, but they also said that it's important to remember that she is being cared for by trained professionals. Otters are wild animals that do not make good pets. And I just want to give the Maryland Zoo credit for remembering to put that messaging out there while also showing how awesome and adorable baby otters are. A couple more quick hits for y'all. ZooAtlanta has announced that they are getting a new animal health center, which is set to open next year. And the team there has also announced that there is a pseudo pregnancy happening at the zoo right now. Lun has recently started to show signs that she is starting her yearly pseudo pregnancy. She is sleeping in more in her behind the scenes den, and people have actually noticed that she hasn't been out on exhibit as much. And that's why they had to announce this, because of the whole pandas being annoying thing. But yeah, pseudo pregnancy is a very common thing with giant pandas, and they are sure that it is a pseudo pregnancy as she has not bred for 5 years. So either a pseudo pregnancy or possibly the savior of all giant pandas is about to be born. But I'm sticking with pseudo pregnancy on this one. Southwick's Zoo, our good friends up at Southwick's Zoo and their Earth Limited conservation organization, have announced that they will be doing fall internships and are currently accepting applications. So if you are the type of person who might want to go do an internship at a zoo, Southwick's is a great place to do it. You'll get to hang out with our good friends Danny and Emily, and even if you don't work with the birds, you'll still see them. Danny's actually in charge of the intern program now, so go and find them and check that out if that's something that you are interested in doing. And then 2 more quick stories in our Zoo News section. First of all, the Los Angeles Zoo has announced this recently, and it's not actually new news. This has been a thing for a minute, but since they put up a post about it, I thought it was worth mentioning that they have Ozzy, the Anatolian Shepherd, a dog that lives at the zoo behind the scenes and works as a livestock guardian dog. Ozzy helps the zoo coexist peacefully with wildlife by protecting the goats and sheep at their children's zoo after hours. Park predators are intimidated by his loud bark and imposing physical presence. And so in the evenings, when the keeper staff is not there and the zoo is closed down, Ozzy is on duty, keeping those animals alive. And during the day, when those animals are less likely to come and try to do predatory things to the animals at the zoo, Ozzy likes to hang out with his keepers, chase squirrels, and nap. In conclusion, I think it is safe to say that Ozzy is in fact a very good boy. And finally in zoo news, an alligator at the St. Augustine Alligator Farm Zoological Park was recently exhibiting a series of symptoms, including intermittent head rolling in his lagoon, and they couldn't quite figure out what was going on. Now, this is not a small animal. Brooke is a 376-pound gator, and so they took this gator to the hospital at the University of Florida College of Veterinary Medicine for a thorough workup to evaluate the possible cause of these unusual behaviors. And what they were able to figure out was that Brooke had an ear infection. Ear infections are caused by air in sensitive parts of the ear and can be caused by viruses or bacteria. They did not say which of those caused Brooke's infection. However, the alligator was able to go back to the zoo and got healed up. So it's extra interesting to think about because, we don't really think about alligator ears. They don't have big floppy ears or pointy ears. I'm now just picturing dog ears on an alligator because we've had so many dog stories in Zoo News this week. They have little holes basically directly behind their eyes that they can close tightly to prevent water from getting in. But for whatever reason, Brooke got an ear infection, and luckily the vet team was able to figure it out and is now doing fine.
Conservation! News time! Oh yeah!
All right. So for the 3rd week in a row, we're going to talk about Karens at parks. So 2 weeks ago, I told you about the fact that the rangers at Yellowstone are asking you to knock Karens over if you see them. And then last week, I updated to tell you that while that was true at Yellowstone and some parks, other parks actually use them as markers. So while they don't want you making your own, they also don't want you knocking them over if you see them. Well, this week's update comes actually from a couple of different listeners, all of whom reached out to me to ask me if it's okay to knock over Karens, Karens, as that is currently being used in the vernacular. And while this podcast certainly does not, recommend knocking over annoying, loud, privileged people, and certainly would never say that that's an okay thing to do. I mean, if you don't get caught, you don't get caught. I'm just Just saying. No, but I wanted to take a moment to laugh about that because seriously, multiple people reached out and asked me my take on knocking over Karens, Karens. And I just love this community so much. And I love that y'all have the same goofy sense of humor that I do, and that I heard from multiple people about whether or not we should knock over Karens. One person went as far as to then ask me what we should do if they come across carry-on, but that is out of my pay grade, y'all. I'm gonna leave that to the vultures. A bird named the Magdalena tinamou has been rediscovered. This was an animal that was believed to be extinct. And the last time that there was a confirmed sighting was in 1943. And locals have said that they saw it back in the 70s and 80s, but they were not confirmed sightings. And there was a single individual that was left in captivity until the early 1990s. However, none of those were confirmed except for the one in captivity, and obviously that one was not in the wild. So this bird was believed to be extinct. However, it has been rediscovered in its homeland in Colombia. So that's very cool. This is actually the second time that a bird has been rediscovered in Colombia recently. The bearded bellbird was also thought to be extinct and was then discovered to not be that. So yeah, it's kind of cool to think that like there are these animals out there that we just don't see, but there's still so much wilderness in some parts of the world that like these animals can just hide a little bit, which I kind of find fascinating. And speaking of birds, the Audubon Society recently put up a post saying that songbirds tend to live very short lives. And as such, it is incredible that their team recently documented an individual painted bunting that was 14 years old. This is a bird that was visiting a South Carolina backyard for years and was banded there as part of a research program for the species. And the bird made it 14 years. That is so beyond life expectancy that hopefully the studies they were able to do will give some insight into how this bird was able to make it. But it's an absolutely incredible story of a small songbird beating the odds. The water temperatures in parts of southern Florida have been absolutely ridiculous lately, sometimes getting over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And unfortunately, that has led to another massive coral bleaching incident, particularly at Alina's Reef in Biscayne National Park. It seems like most, but not all of the coral has been bleached. And a lot of the coral have not died from it yet, but are very, very pale. And really, at this point, the only thing that can save them is the water temperature coming down. There's nothing that like we as humans can do in an emergency situation to help the water temp drop enough to stop this bleaching event from becoming fatal for this coral. And this is some of the oldest coral and largest coral that exists in the United States. So hopefully cool weather will come and maybe El Nino will help and make that not be a thing. But otherwise, we just have to sit back and watch a huge swath of coral reef disappear down in Florida. When I saw this next story, I thought it was kind of astonishing and couldn't wait to share it with y'all. But then as I read on it, it's interesting in its own way. But recently, a scientist has discovered 6 new species of cichlids, which are a type of kind of small fish, maybe a little longer than your fingers, depending on how long your fingers are. And this is what I should say is this is a type of fish because, like I said, there are a bunch of different species. And so when I saw that there were suddenly 6 new ones discovered, I was like, whoa, that's astonishing. That's like a lot of new species of a thing. And I thought that was true. But as I read on, I discovered that so there are actually over 2,000 species of cichlids out there. And because of that, and because, we study them as best we can, but the taxonomy is ever changing. So this isn't like a huge hugely crazy different thing. But yeah, it turns out that the lake where these 6 different species were found actually houses an additional 600 species of cichlids. So this is when y'all have heard me talk about taxonomy and how I kind of, I don't know, I go back and forth on the helpfulness of it. And is something a species? Is it a genus? Is it a family? What's going on here? It's kind of an interesting debate how important that is. But yeah, I thought it was both worth mentioning that there are 6 new species of cichlids, and also that that's really barely a drop in the bucket in the number of cichlid species that already exist, and those numbers are constantly changing as they get redefined taxonomically. Some good news for sea turtles. The Loggerhead Marine Life Center has already broken its record for the most sea turtle nests found in a year, and there are still 3 months of nesting season left. In total, the center this year has documented 21,020 nests, 215 from leatherbacks, 14,469 from loggerheads, and 6,336 from green sea turtles. The fact that they are already on this high and there are still 3 months to go is a really promising sign for sea turtles, all of which are threatened or endangered. And actually, there's also some good news for sea turtles in the United States Congress, which is currently considering the Sea Turtle Rescue Assistance Act. This is a bipartisan bill, those still exist apparently, that will create a federal grant program to provide much-needed direct support to organizations that rescue and rehabilitate endangered sea turtles, like the National Aquarium and the South Carolina Aquarium, and lots of other aquariums. Our friends at Brevard Zoo. So many places do this. Turtleback Zoo. I could go on and on. And the bill is currently in Congress and actually has a decent shot to pass. So very exciting news for sea turtles this week. I always love to mention weird bird sightings in conservation news because sometimes I feel like a little bit like conspiracy theorist-y, and I'm like, I don't know, it can't be good that all these birds keep showing up in places that they're not supposed to be seen. And in this case, a rosette spoonbill, which is usually found in South American marshes up through Central America and even into bits of the southern U.S., was recently found in Green Bay, Wisconsin. It is the first time that this type of bird has ever been spotted alive in Wisconsin outside of zoos, and no one really knows how it got there or what it's doing there. So yeah, I feel like this is maybe the 6th or 7th time I've reported on something like this over the last year, and again, I don't know if it's just because these things happen from time to time and now the internet makes like a bigger deal about it, like we all get to find out about these things now, or if it's a sign of something going on with climate change and all of that. I really don't know, but I do think it's worth continuing to think about and look into. And also, if you're a bird watcher and happen to be near Wisconsin, go to Green Bay and check out this incredibly rare sighting. And while the world is currently freaking out about all of the AI stuff, I mean, heck, I ranted about it earlier on this podcast, researchers and conservationists are starting to figure out ways to use it in a positive way. For instance, researchers have started using AI to map the movements of 2 endangered species of dolphins in the Amazon River by training a neural network to recognize the animals' unique clicks and whistles. These are dolphins that are very hard to track with things like GPS tags or boats and actually get their natural behaviors. But by tracking their sounds, that's a pretty good and completely non-intrusive way to do it. The dolphins don't know they're being tracked and can just keep on living their lives. One of the species involved is the pink river dolphin, which is a very rare, very cool species. So yeah, this can really help with conservation efforts and knowing what areas we need to save and knowing where these dolphins will be. And it's non-invasive. It's not intrusive. So AI may be taking over the entertainment industry and ruining how we all view things on the internet and just showing how dumb people can be, but like also helping conserve animals. Yay!
Oh, animal, oh, animal, animal holidays. Animal, oh, animal, animal holidays. Hey!
All right, right, that brings us to our animal holidays for the week. It is August, which is National Parks Month, National Catfish Month. August is for Antelope Month and Asian Elephant Awareness Month. All right, and then for this week, on the 4th, we've got Clouded Leopard Day and Owl Awareness Day. The 5th is World Tomastama Day. The 6th launches International Assistance Dog Week, which runs through the 12th. The 7th is Sea Serpent Day. That seems super real. The 8th is International Cat Day and Moon Bear Day. And then the 10th is World Lion Day. So we got a bunch this week. Enjoy celebrating, y'all. And those are your animal holidays for the week. All right, so there you have it, folks. Another week of Rossifari Dream Drum Set news. Zoo news. Quick reminder that if you would like to support the podcast, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Rossifari. For as little as $3 a month, you can help support this pod. And I'd like to say thank you to all of my patrons, especially my Red Panda level patrons, Laura Shank and Stephen Williamson. I would also like to thank everyone who contributed this week. Anya Keene, Colleen Lenahan, Kim Cooley, Carrie Kirkpatrick, Kevin Williams, Emily Rockbuck, Laura Shank, Sam Stock, Emily Poche, Jacob Zinn, Patrick Magruder, Crystal Chapman, Nicole Downey, Ken Tryon, Andrew King, Zoe Rossi, Sherry Weiss, Ali Malinsky, and Liz Dunlevy. Thank you all so much. And remember, you all can send me stories too, and then I'll say your name right there, only like next week or whatever. And finally, remember, friends, the words Newsy credits backwards are Steiderk Yiswen. The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo. Experiencing signs of morning sickness. Wow.